The stillness of the ranch before dawn broke apart under the violent beat of helicopter blades and the sound of heavy SUVs smashing through a wooden gate. Marcus was 78 years old, but he was not weak. He stood tall on his porch with a steaming cup of coffee in his hand. His eyes were sharp and calm as he watched the black vehicles marked with the fraudulent banner of the Lakeside Homeowners Association. This was no property dispute, it was war. Marcus had prepared for this very moment for 30 years. The headlights cut across the field and armed figures in black tactical gear poured out. They carried dart rifles and moved like soldiers, but they were not law enforcement. They were mercenaries. They worked for Victoria Sterling. She was the ruthless granddaughter of a man Marcus had once called an ally. Now she was the face of greed and betrayal. Marcus did not tremble. He did not step back. Instead, he spoke with a low voice that rolled across the field like thunder. He called out her name and told her that her grandfather would be ashamed. She froze. Her eyes burned with anger, and behind the mask of her corporate authority was something darker. This was not about rules or property. It was about legacy and revenge. Marcus lifted a small device in his hand. A red light blinked on it. Every step, every order, every crime under false authority was being recorded in real time. His words cut her deeper when he asked if the board of her corporation knew she was trespassing and committing espionage. Her soldiers glanced at each other with unease. Their leader's composure cracked. Marcus reached for a weathered fence post near the porch, his hand pressed against what looked like a rusty nail, but was in truth an activation switch. A signal was sent. Across the ranch, hidden systems came alive. Cameras lit up and captured every angle. Electromagnetic jammers disrupted the mercenaries' advanced gear. Radios failed. Scopes flickered. Drones crashed. Marcus had rehearsed this for decades. His prized Genesis bull and its herd disappeared into the trees. They followed escape routes Marcus had trained them on since birth. The ranch was not just a home, it was a fortress. It was a laboratory, it was the final defense against corporate greed. The chaos spread across the fields. Mercenaries stumbled as their equipment failed. Marcus's calm presence unnerved them. He reminded Victoria of her grandfather. Dr. William Sterling had been a good man. He believed science should heal and never be used for profit. But his granddaughter had twisted his legacy into something monstrous. While she raged, Marcus's plan unfolded step by step. A hidden network transmitted encrypted evidence to federal servers. The assault was not an attack on an old man. It was proof of a crime carried out by one of the most powerful corporations in the country. Marcus was not a simple rancher. He was the architect of a trap. He had built it for 30 years. He had rehearsed it with his daughter Sarah since she was a child. He had turned his home into a battlefield designed for this very day. Decades earlier, Marcus had sat his daughter at their kitchen table. He told her the strange drills of her childhood were not games. The cattle tunnels were escape routes. The radios were encrypted channels. The college fund was also a vault of access to secret government databases. She grew up to be more than a daughter. She became a federal agent. She became the director of a special containment unit created to carry forward his plan. They called it the Phoenix Protocol. It was not a last resort. It was the final move of a strategy 30 years in the making. Now, as the battle raged outside, Marcus remained calm inside. He invited Victoria into his kitchen. On the table sat a manila folder filled with evidence. Photos of her meetings with corrupt officials. Records of her payments to fraudulent boards. Proof that her company withheld life-saving treatments in order to increase profit. Her mask slipped further. Her voice cracked as she shouted that her grandfather was weak. She said he gave away billions because he was too soft to understand business. She admitted she had spent her life erasing his mistakes. Every word was captured by the recording device. Every word was a confession. Marcus leaned back and spoke softly. He told her that 6 of her mercenaries carried advanced markers of terminal illness. His research could have treated them. But her greed had kept those cures locked away. The shock in her face was clear. She had not known. For a moment the truth hit her, yet she laughed. She said her men were expendable. She called them assets. Her cold words became the final nail in her coffin. The sound of helicopters grew louder. Victoria thought they were hers. She was wrong. The door opened and Dr. Eleanor Reed walked inside. She was not a stranger. She was Marcus's ally, and she carried 2 heavy briefcases. The first opened to reveal photographs, documents, conversations. All proof of Victoria's campaign of intimidation against 12 research families in 7 states. The second opened to reveal audio recordings, her own voice ordering the attacks, her own words sealing her fate. Eleanor's final revelation shook the room. She said her daughter had not died in the car crash Victoria arranged. It had been an attempted murder that failed. Eleanor's daughter had lived. She had been hidden in Marcus's underground medical facility. She had been healed by the very treatments Victoria refused to develop. The blood drained from Victoria's face. Her empire was crumbling in real time. Her radio screamed with more bad news. Federal raids across her facilities. News channels broadcasting live stories about her crimes. The trap was complete. Marcus walked into his underground laboratory. In his hand was a syringe. It was not just medicine. It was hope. It was the collection of decades of research. He could destroy it and keep it from falling into greedy hands. Instead, he made a different choice. He injected it into his bloodstream. The data would integrate with his DNA. He became a living library. His knowledge could only be shared through cooperation with legitimate authorities. Sterling could capture him. She could torture him. She could never take the research by force. Above ground, Sarah's voice crackled on the radio. She announced that legacy asset teams were going operational. The ranch was now under federal protection. Any corporate personnel remaining would be arrested for bioterrorism and conspiracy. The loudspeakers carried her words. The cameras streamed them to the world. Deputy Commander Jake Morrison arrived with divided loyalties. For years, Victoria had used his weakness against him. His own child had been a victim of her medical extortion. He had worked for her, but he had also recorded everything. Now he stood on Marcus's side. His recordings of board meetings revealed cold discussions of acceptable casualty rates for patients. His testimony would shake the nation. The helicopters thundered above. Mercenaries dropped their weapons. Victoria stood frozen as she realized every move she had made had been calculated and used against her. 3 months later, the ranch looked different. It was no longer just Marcus's home. It became a federally protected research sanctuary. The underground bunker turned into a laboratory where Eleanor and her daughter worked side by side with Sarah. They developed treatments that would save lives without corporate interference. Morrison redeemed himself through testimony that shocked Congress. The community that once mocked Marcus now stood guard as volunteers. They protected the ranch not out of duty but out of pride. It had become a symbol of hope. The Genesis bull and its herd grazed under federal protection. They were classified as national treasures. Their genetic code carried the future of medicine. Marcus sat on his porch once more. His coffee steamed in the cool air. He watched the sunset over Lake Whitmore. His eyes softened. The long fight was over. His plan had worked. His family's legacy had become more than a defense against greed. It had become a sanctuary for humanity. His fight had destroyed a corrupt empire. It had freed medicine from chains of profit. It had created a future where healing knowledge would remain safe. Justice had been served. Healing knowledge had been preserved. Marcus knew that his burden had become a gift, and he sat quietly as the day ended, knowing that he had given the world something greater than himself.